Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to our July 15th meeting of the board. We have just adjourned an executive session for the purpose of litigation as regards to 64 Wildwood Street and also the Wildwood School oil tank breach in accordance with Mass General Law, Chapter 30A, Section 21A, subsection 3, as an open meeting may have a detrimental effect on the negotiation and litigation position of the town. And with that, would you please join me in the Pledge of Allegiance? I pledge allegiance to the flag
of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay. Once again, good evening. All members are present. And we will move into transmitting of Treasury warrants. We have Treasury warrants 2452, 2452W, 2452T, 24V9S, 24MS6S, 2453W, 2501, 2501W, 2501T, 2501S, 2502, 2502W, 2502T, 25M1TW, 25M1T. Is there a motion?
Easy for you to say.
I'm not going to repeat that.
Motion to approve.
Thank you. Is there a second? Motion's been made and seconded. All those in favor? It is unanimous. We have two further. We have Treasury warrants 2453 and 2500. Is there a motion?
I'll
Make a motion.
Second.
Motion's been made and seconded. All those in favor? All those opposed? And I will abstain. Okay. And next up, we have our approval of minutes from June 24th, 2024. Is there a motion?
So move.
Thank you. Is there a second?
Second.
Motion's been made and seconded. Is there any discussion? Hearing none, we'll call for the vote. All those in favor? It is unanimous. Thank you very much. Okay, which brings us to our 7 o'clock appointment. Good evening, everybody. Our 7 o'clock appointment is with, forgive me if I mispronounce your name, Shira Patel from Will Sub LLC, doing business as Subway. They're here to request and obtain a common victual license for the property located at 206 Ballardvale Street, Unit 2. Good evening, how are you?
Evening. I'm good. How are you?
Good. Could you, for the record, could you just give us your name?
Sure. Shreya Patel, and I'm the manager at that location.
Great. Thank you for being here this evening. And you are seeking a common victual license for the property located at 206 Ballardvale Street, Unit 2. Is that correct?
Yes.
Awesome. Thank you very much. Anything you want to share with us before the board takes a vote this evening?
No.
Any changes that we could expect? Anything that the residents should know? Everything's
No.
probably going to be the same.
Everything's the same. Yep.
Great. Thank you. Any questions or comments from the board? Hearing none, do we
Nope.
have recommendations for this one?
I don't believe we have any comments on this one, Mr. Chair.
No issues.
There was some.
Oh, no, I apologize.
Yeah, Shelley and.
Yes, there's the health inspector
And building inspector.
said that Board of Health has no issues, and the building inspector has no issues. I
Great.
apologize for that.
So we have positive recommendations.
I'll make a motion to approve.
Thank you. Is there a second?
Second.
Motion's been made and second. Is there any discussion? Hearing none, we'll call for the vote. All those in favor? It is unanimous. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thanks
Thank
for
you.
choosing Wilmington, and good luck.
Thank you so much.
You're welcome. Okay, a little bit ahead of schedule. We'll move to our next appointment. If they're with us, we have an appointment with Ricardo Vasquez of Casablanca Mexican Restaurant regarding a request for Casablanca and Code One Barbecue to obtain a one-day alcohol license for the property located at 207 Main Street. Good evening. Please, come right up. Hi there. Please, have a seat, and if you need another seat, we can get you one.
Oh, I'm okay. Thank
Okay.
you.
Thanks
How
for
are
being
you?
here. If you don't mind, just please, for the record, introducing yourselves.
Hi, I'm Erica Marchant with Code One Barbecue.
No, I'm Ricardo Vasquez with Casablanca Mexican
eve-
restaurant.
Good evening to both of you. And just to confirm, we're looking for a one-day alcohol license. That's correct?
Yes.
And do we have the date?
Saturday, July 20th.
Saturday, July 20th. And do you want to share anything here with the board before we take action?
So yes, we're actually collaborating to have a little festival in the parking lot so that we can invite all of the Wilmington community and surrounding towns. We're both going to, sell food and have games and raffles and an ice cream truck and lots of fun stuff that day.
Great. Do we have any recommendations?
Yes, the Wilmington Police Department recommends approval of the one-day alcohol license.
Great.
Great. Any questions or comments from the board?
Have fun.
Yeah,
Thank
We'll
you.
be there.
that's great.
Yes, join us, please.
All right. Our
I
vote
just,
will-
one
Please.
question, just the hours.
Oh, 12:30 to 4.
12:30 to 4.
I'll make a motion to approve.
Motion to approve, is there a second?
Second?
Motion's been made and seconded, any discussion? Our motion includes positive, good weather for you,
Yes,
okay?
yeah.
Yes, thank you, I hope
We
so.
hope, we hope. Any final plugs to the community for the event? Do you want to put it
So,
out there?
there's an open mic as well, so if there's anybody
Oh.
who plays any music and wants to take part in the open mic, we're working with Next Generation Concerts. They bring all the equipment and to sing and play, and you come on down and have some fun, listen to music.
Greg sings very well.
No,
Yeah.
no, you don't. I don't want to scare anybody
Sounds like
away.
fun to me.
I won't
Well-
be singing either, so that's okay.
Sounds like a nice event. Okay, we
I
have,
guess just a question. I noticed on the diagram, you have it's gonna be blocked off.
Yes, we're gonna block
So cars
off.
don't go through. How is that going? Is it gonna be with cones, or how are you blocking that? Do you know yet?
We do have chairs that we can put out, and we got caution tape.
Okay.
Great.
any other questions, comments?
No?
Great.
Sounds like fun.
Yeah.
Sounds like a
Awesome.
great event, yeah,
All
thank
right.
you.
Yeah.
All those in favor? It is unanimous. Thank you
you.
very much, and
All
good
right,
luck.
thanks so much.
Thanks
Have
for
a
doing
great night.
business here.
Two.
Thank you, everyone.
Take care. All right, that brings us to communications. Mr. Manager, please.
So the first communication is one that the board has seen before. This is the memorandum from our DPW Director, Jamie McGaldy, regarding the white goods CRT recycling cost survey and recommendations. And Jamie is here with us. The board at the last meeting had asked for us to do a little bit of investigation into whether or not there would be some actions that we could take in efforts. I think the board wanted to try and mitigate some of the cost impacts on folks who were applying for the white stickers. So we had an internal staff meeting about this, and I think the staff recommendation would remain to increase the rate to $25 across the board, specifically because it's that lower rate that drives the white stickers coming in from out of town. And those white goods, again, and just to be very clear, we're providing a significant subsidy to every single one of those white goods that gets recycled in town is at a significant subsidy, significantly less than you can get if you purchase a new refrigerator and have the company come in and take it away for you, and significantly less than the surrounding towns. Jamie has more specifics on that if folks have any questions, but I think he's can let you know that what his thoughts are about it.
Jamie McGaldy, Public Works Director. Thanks, Eric. Yeah, that's really the long and short of it. I did refresh on the meeting from last month just to kind of reacclimate with what the discussion items were. We did follow the board's recommendation and put the memo that I wrote on the DPW website, so that's been up for about 2.5 weeks, so anybody from the public could have a chance to kind of see where those numbers came from and weigh in if they had any questions. I think raising the price of the sticker to $25 is supported. Again, it is on the low end of the average, so we're trying to make that happy balance between providing a service that residents want, which is getting rid of their white goods and CRTs and mattresses, but at the same time not risk facing what could be a costly change order with our trash company. Because when they put their numbers together 5 years ago, they based it on what they believed the projected numbers and volumes would be, and we're much higher than that right now.
Jamie, thank you for being here, and if you're okay with it, I'd like to open it up for questions or comments from the colleagues. Mr. De Palma?
Jamie, thank you for coming, as always. I'm not concerned with these fees. I am under the impression that they're anticipating that the recycling facilities are anticipating an even higher rate, cost rate to them in the very near future. I'm concerned about that, if it's something that you're gonna have to do a yearly review on. I was told, like, for instance, mattresses, they could be over $100 next year to get rid of. And that concerns me, with,
Sure. So certainly the prices won't be going down anytime
No.
soon, we know that. We're in a unique position that we are in our fifth and final year of our five-year trash and recycling contract. So one of the reasons we're looking at this now is that we can prepare our specifications to put the trash and recycling collection out for proposals this coming later this summer and into the fall. So those trash companies will look at those numbers, and they sleep, eat, and drink trash, not literally, but that's what they do. So we're going to kind of let those proposers do the work and the projections and entertain prices for a new five-year collection contract, which is what we're facing anyway. So they'll likely, and they'll take that risk. Depending on how our trash contract is set up, there may or may not be change orders in the future. But it's really hard to predict that at this point. I would say that we would likely have to revisit this cost at a later date. Again, it is on the low end of the average, and we certainly don't want to be in a similar position, say, 3-4 years from now, where we're facing the same volume hikes.
thank you.
Questions? Mr. West?
Yes, thank you, Jamie. A couple of quick questions to you, Mr. Chairman, to Jamie. Couple of things. One, is there a way, because a lot of the people that are doing this are seniors. They're taking their 20-year fridge, throwing it away. They're not going to throw another appliance away for probably another year or two or whatever. Is there any way to make it like so that it's like $10 for the first couple of stickers, and then after that, I mean, are you tracking by household who's, like you got 281 stickers on average a month last year? Are there certain households that are, throwing away 5, 10 things, 15?
Yeah, there certainly are. And that includes mattresses, too. All other appliances right now, we don't have a restriction on the number of white goods per week. We do have a restriction on the number of bulk items per week because we're not
Right.
charging a fee for that. But really, the other half of this is to relieve the administrative burden and make this process a lot easier. Because we're selling 100 stickers a week, that is almost turned into a full-time job for someone at Town Hall, whether it's in the collector's office. I think right now it's in another department. So I think adding some challenges to that might make it more complicated, but my biggest concern with still charging a lower rate for certain people would be that we would still get items from out of town. What we're seeing, we do have evidence showing that maybe someone's parents who live in Wilmington are still collecting items from their sons or daughters who live out of town. And so if the knowledge is there that they can still receive a discounted rate, that would still be a major concern. And I will say, in other communities, it's not very common to see that. With trash, we're trying to make it as simple as possible, again, to provide that service to the people. And at the end of the day, we just want the item recycled, and the residents just want it out of their house and on the curb, so.
Yeah, the other thing is that when are you looking at, if we do this, when are you thinking of imposing the fee? Because it would be nice to give people warning, hey, I got that second fridge I've been meaning to throw out, and now it might be the impetus, hey, it's $10 now or $25 very soon.
Yeah, certainly, I'd have a discussion with Eric on that, but I think the consensus, at least in the last meeting, was to issue some warning, and maybe Labor Day, September 2nd, maybe that week would be a good time to start it. Change the season and gives the residents a few months to kind of think about it.
Now, we're in the last year of the trash contract.
Yes.
So they're still obliged to take it at whatever rate we're at. Am I correct in saying that, until the new contract goes into effect?
Well, that's correct. So our cost to actually recycle the items is baked into our collection contract. And again, that's based on an algorithm that I don't understand, but the trash people do.
Yeah.
So our cost to dispose of it is, yes, locked in for that year. So what we're proposing is our fee for residents to pay to collect it, which we can control.
Yeah, because what I'm thinking is that the later we can push it, just to give people, again, I'm just giving people the chance to, hey, my kid's back to school, I got some stuff in my basement, whatever the thing is. I just don't want people to come up and say, gee, I didn't really think about it over the summer, and now it's, like you said, it's Labor Day,
Right.
and I wanted to get rid of my stuff, and gee, it's $25, and I didn't, as you know, people always say, I didn't know. And, we just got to give a really good heads up, in my opinion, to tell people that.
Yeah, I think that is reasonable. What I would be hesitant to do would be not to change the price and then wait another year. At that point, would likely be facing a change order, because again, our baked-in price of collected was based on a known volume, which has changed.
'Cause I'd be more thinking that if we did it, like the end of September or something like that, just to, give people a chance, hey, summer's over, kids are back at school, kids are in college, whatever the thing is. And, now, people have settled in to, settle for, back to normal for the fall, shall we say.
Sure.
Mr. Chair, I think your timeline's fine. I think Labor Day, after Labor Day makes sense, just because I think people will associate it with Labor Day
Sure.
as opposed to the end of, in the school year. I think the timing to me makes sense. How do you plan on communicating the new process, the change, maybe on the board at,
Yeah, sure. I mean, we can do any number
Rotary.
of things, up to and including putting it on our website. Our DPW Twitter page has really taken off,
Good.
and whenever we do a tweet, it's shared by numerous social media avenues, and honestly, that seems to be the best way that we're getting our word
Great.
out.
Okay,
Yeah.
thank you.
Thank you. Any other discussion,
Mr.
Mr.
Chair.
Kyra?
Yeah, so the contract is with Casella, right?
That's
That's
correct.
the one that's running out in a year?
That's correct.
Okay. And you're gonna negotiate with, you're gonna put it out to bid?
Well, yeah, we would be looking for an
Okay.
an RFP, a request for proposals. It's not necessarily a bid, but it is a way to compare proposals from various other trash companies.
Right.
Yeah.
And you can go out as far as what, the law permits, up to 20 years, doesn't it? But we don't go that far.
Well,
Typically, it's 10 years.
We've had 10, but we've been advised by town council that we can do up to 5. And we've gone to town meeting, I think it was 2 years ago, to authorize a 5-year trash collection contract. So likely it would be a 5-year.
And what's Wheelabrator?
Yep, so the contract with Casella is simply for the collection. Wheelabrator is the company that is in North Andover, and they provide the disposal service. So Casella's trucks actually drive up to Wheelabrator on the North Andover Haverhill line, and that's where they're dumping the trash, and we pay a separate fee under a separate contract to Wheelabrator to dispose of that trash.
Okay. So the $10 that they're paying now, or the $25 that potentially may be paying in the future, that $25 goes to who, Casella or Wheelabrator?
That's separate. Wheelabrator is for the disposal of the trash. What we're talking about here is recycling white goods, recycling CRTs, recycling mattresses. So it's a different apples and oranges there. So the proposal for the $25 fee that's on the table is the same as it was at the last board meeting in June, which is we would get a credit for $10 still on the item, and 15 of the $25 would be going to Casella. Again, the proposal is for Casella to take over the setting the appointments, the administrative duties of setting up the list, whereas of right now, it's in the hands of Town Hall for $10.
And how would that be tracked? And I asked that question before, I don't think anybody had a real definitive answer. So if 100 people give them, $25, how do we know it was 100 people?
So what we would ask for is a copy of the actual list that the truck driver gets, and there is a degree of trust there, but we would have the option to spot audit it if we want. Inevitably with those lists, there's always somebody that gets an item missed or they didn't put it out, and inevitably they end up calling our office inadvertently, just trying to tell us what happened. So in those instances, we can certainly take their address, review the list, and make sure it's on it. In the case where they're telling us that their item was missed and they're not on the list, that would be a red flag for us to say, okay, we need to do some further investigating. But as of really, with anything trash-related, our tracking is the weekly slips that we would get. And quite honestly, I'm not sure the motivation is there with, their contract is actually like $1.2 million a year just to collect their trash and recycling for us.
No,
Yeah.
I just want to know how
And
it's
certainly, there'd be
tracked.
no motivation for them to add any items to the list, because quite honestly, it's still more expensive to recycle the item than $25. So if anything, they would be putting themselves further in the red if they were to add items to the list. So I'm not too worried about that. It would be interesting to see what sort of a volume dip we get when we switch over to this process. I'm expecting about a 30% reduction, but even 70 items a week is a lot. If we get a major jump and it's fluctuating all over the place, again, that would be a red flag for us to do some further investigating, but time will tell.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
And Jamie, if you could just clarify for me, so this, because I'll be honest, I really appreciate your recommendation, but I am reluctant to vote for this personally, because this isn't a comment directed at you, but just in general. Obviously, we pay a good amount of taxes here, and now we're seeing an additional fee for a service that, some might argue should be included in that. Having said that, the benefit would be, as Mr. Kara pointed out, that the $15 extra is gonna go to Casella and not to the town, but now we're not handling. Is that really the benefit here? So when we break it down,
Absolutely.
your office or treasurer collector's office is no longer gonna have to deal with this. Is that correct?
That is correct. The theory here is that this will free up almost a full-time employee at Town Hall from having to stop what they're doing every 20 minutes, 15 minutes, and sell a white goods sticker. So, and again, this is actually what most of the other communities around us, in my communications with my colleagues in other towns, are doing. And it's very common for the trash and recycle hauler to take this over.
Okay. Thank you for clarifying.
And
No,
as far as the tax dollars too, I can appreciate that. Again, if we're consistently, though, on the low end, we are going to continue to see these volumes go up. And how that will affect your tax dollars eventually anyway is the new trash contract will see those volumes, and it'll bake it into the collection price anyway. So whether they get it through a sticker price or they get it through the tax levy and paying for a new trash contract, which is now changed, or a change order, the money's coming from somewhere anyway.
Yeah, I think that's a good point you make, because I find myself, and my colleagues do too, between a rock and a hard place, right? If we vote this down,
Yeah.
we vote no tonight, then in a year from now, when we negotiate, as you just said, whatever trash company is going to pile that into the cost anyway. So we end up paying for it.
They'll be getting
Right.
paid anyway. And
Yeah.
I hope the residents can appreciate, if they do go on the website and look at the memo, there's a comparison of what other towns are charging, and you will see that $25 is on the far low end of the
Yeah,
average.
I mean, this, just for, just for the record, I mean, I know we mentioned some of them last time, but the list here that we've been provided, a mattress pickup in Andover's $40, Billerica $40, Concord $45, in North Andover 40, our neighbors next door, North Reading 40, Reading $55. So, and Tewksbury 36, just to name a few. Yeah, so I mean, I can appreciate your recommendation here. I think the only thing that I might be looking for is to try to stretch out this timeline. I know my colleagues, with all due respect, mentioned Labor Day. I think people are pretty busy during the summer months, and they're paying attention to the things that are important to them, as they should be. And increased fee might not be one of the things they're paying attention to. So I wonder if we could stretch that a little longer into the fall. I try to push it as far as we can, try to get the word out there. We are potentially looking at a fall town meeting. There's a good chance to get the word out for that. There'll be a tax bill that goes out in next quarter, and the town topics might be another way to get the word out. So I think my colleagues raise a good point that, people will say, geez, I didn't know that was going to happen. But so any chance we can utilize, as you mentioned, your Twitter page and the website and newsletters and however other form of communication to get the word out that this is the case, I think would be appreciated. So I get it. And when you bring up the point about this frees up potentially an entire full-time position, it's tough to argue against that.
Sure.
So, Mr. Manager, do you want to add anything?
No, I just wanted to kind of reiterate, with respect to the tax issue, I completely understand your point. And I do want to point out that one of the driving points of this concern is that we believe that there's folks coming in who aren't paying taxes. And that I don't think that the taxpayers in Wilmington should be subsidizing paying for other towns' white goods. And this kind of, this still is a massive subsidy, but it does put a little bit more of the onus for the service on the people who are using it. And so if you're not recycling a white good, you're not paying for the service, and the person who is recycling the white good is. So those would be kind of my thoughts, but I completely understand what everybody's saying.
Thank you for that, because someone also pointed out to me this week, just saying, geez, if you raise the cost, you mentioned nothing's going down. There'll eventually come a day where that cost goes up again. This person was fearful, geez, you know, trash will just start to pile up places. People will just dump a mattress somewhere else because they don't want to pay what could be north of $25 in the future. You know, I hope that's not the case, but just wanted some of the feedback that we got, so.
You know, and the other thing I would like to add, Mr. Chairman, through you, is using this program is just one option that the residents have.
Yeah.
They don't have to use it. If they can find another way to recycle these items, that's great. A lot of times, the vendors, if you were to buy a new refrigerator, will offer to take the other one back for you. Depending on who the vendor is, those prices fluctuate. And then there's also repurposing an item. If you can find someone that needs an appliance if it's working and just not up to your standards, or you want a refrigerator with an ice maker and yours doesn't have one, I would certainly recommend that residents first consider repurposing, donating, using an outfit like Savers, that sort of thing.
Good point. Mr. West?
Yes, a couple of quick questions. Is that, now you were talking about white goods here, and I'm assuming that you're also talking metal. You know, like if somebody was going to take a metal cart like that, there's a fee for that versus a wooden cart. Like if that particular cart was made out of wood, or a couch or some other, you know, is there a charge for that?
That's a good distinction there. So the wooden cart would be considered what's known as a bulk item. And right now, those are free. And the proposal on the table right now is to still have those free. I will tell you that most communities charge for bulk items, and we're one of the few that still don't. But a white good is defined as essentially a bulk metal item. That could be just a metal cart. It's also defined as an item that might have Freon in it, and there's an added expense for the vendor to then recycle the Freon. So refrigerator, air conditioner, dehumidifier.
Yeah, because I know when I've called Casella, for example, they'll ask, what is, you know, because I've got, you know, we've all had bulk goods taken away. And they asked me right up, you know, straight up, what is the material made out of? And like I said, if it was a metal cart like that, you would charge a white good sticker for that.
Correct.
And I guess the other comment is that, you know, at least both Mr. Bendel and I had brought up possibly the fall. Is there a better date? Like if we make a motion, is there a date that you could live with? You know, a start date for this?
Really, it's flexible. You know, I would just maybe take a look at the calendar. Maybe even, you know, mid-October would be after Columbus Day. So I think that might add a couple of weeks, but certainly up for debate.
Yeah, because I'd be prepared to make a motion to accept with a start date, but I'd like the start date to be a little bit downstream, just to, like I said, just to give the residents ample notice.
Questions or comments,
Yeah,
sir?
one more question. I'll follow up on the bulk items. It says here that, for like couches is no charge. Is that still no charge?
For Wilmington, yes, bulk items in Wilmington are no charge.
Any questions? Okay. Well, as I mentioned, Jamie, although I'm reluctant, one thing that I know is for sure is that when you come before us with a recommendation, it has the best interests of the residents within it, so my reluctance may be short-sighted. And so I'd be willing to entertain this if you believe that this is going to be the best thing for us in the long run, come the negotiations next year.
I do. I believe it's in the best interest of both the residents and the town.
Thank you. With that,
Oh, sorry.
please.
I was going to say, I'll make a motion to approve, and given what seems to be, you know, the feedback on this board, with a date mid-October to start. If maybe that first Monday in the middle, I don't know, I don't have a calendar, maybe
Looks like October 14th.
14th, that,
I'm not sure if that's Columbus Day, but that would be the starting week.
okay. It is.
Okay.
So, starting October 15th, that Tuesday.
Motion's been made. Is there a second?
Second.
Seconded by Mr. West.
One more question, Mr. Chair.
Discussion, Mr. Kara.
On the $25, Jamie, you said 10 of it's coming back to the town,
That's correct,
15 stays with
with Casella.
Casell, whoever it is.
Yeah, so
May not be them.
that's correct. For a few months under the rest of the contract, it will be Casella.
So how do they get that? So they're collecting the $25, so they make the transaction to the town? Is
Yes,
that
it will be issued to us in the form of a credit when our monthly bill comes in.
Credit.
Yes.
Any other discussion? Get those mattresses out there quick. All right. All those in favor? It is unanimous.
Thank you very
Thanks,
much.
Jamie.
Jamie.
Thank you, Jamie.
Appreciate it.
Mr. Manager.
Mr. Chair, through you to the rest of the board, the next memorandum that I provided is a highlight of the important dates coming up for the Wilmington Elementary School MSBA project. As folks are aware, folks who are on the committee, but also I'm sure that the other members of the board are aware, there are discussions ongoing with the Wildwood School Committee regarding the MSBA process for the upcoming decision about what to apply for at the MSBA with respect to a new elementary school project or a redone elementary school project. So the important dates for folks to be aware of are as follows. So on July 23rd at 6:30, there is an MSBA School Building Committee meeting. At that time, we anticipate that our architects will be coming forward with some tighter cost estimates and also a range of anticipated MSBA contribution. So we will likely be able to have at least a range of what they anticipate the town share would be of each one of those projects on the 23rd. On August 7th, at 7:00 p.m., there's a virtual public forum. You can check the Wilmington School website for that link. That is for the public to come, and I believe there's going to be a presentation from our consultants and architect regarding the various options. And again, at that time, there should be a greater estimates of the cost for the town. On August 19th, that is the next select board meeting at which we hope to have our consultant and possibly members of the school board here to have a discussion and presentation about the project up to that point, and all the options. And then the next day, on August 20th, is another, at 6:30 p.m., is another MSBA School Building Committee meeting. The belief would be at that time that the School Building Committee will be choosing the desired option to put forward to MSBA. So that would be happening on August 20th. And then the final important date on here would be May 3rd, 2025, the annual town meeting, where likely there would be a proposal for the options to pay for the proposal at that point in time. Obviously, there'll be a long lag time to do a lot more education about the proposal in between the August 20th date, and the town meeting. So I just wanted everybody to kind of keep that on the front of their mind and be aware of those meetings. So if anybody, obviously the members, but also anybody in the public, those are all public meetings, and so you'd be able to attend and at least hear. And in the forum, you can participate and ask questions.
Thank you.
The next memorandum that I provided to the board is regarding the reuse of town buildings. So as folks know, there have been questions that have come up regarding the potential reuse of the various municipal buildings that are going to be vacated as a result of both the senior center project and the town hall school administration building project. So in the memo, I listed them out. It's the current senior center, the current town hall, the Roman House, and the Wilmington Arts Center, are at the very least buildings that will be vacated as a result of this process. And so I believe it would be prudent for the select board to have a process by which those buildings are at least evaluated for potential reuse. And my proposal is that we task the Permanent Building Committee with that project. I've spoken to Dennis Kelly, who is the chair of the Permanent Building Committee. He believes that would be appropriate for them to take up. I've always also spoken to George Hooper, who was the former chair of that committee and is still a current member of that committee. He agrees that that would be an appropriate forum for it. It allows for a group that has building on their mind to do the investigation and then come back with a recommendation to what should happen with those structures. I put down in the memo, kind of a proposed charge to the Permanent Building Committee, and I can read that out loud just for the folks at home. So the charge to the Permanent Building Committee for the building reuse project would be, number one, to conduct an assessment of each building to determine the current conditions. Number two, to investigate the need of town departments to determine if internal reuse is merited. Number three, to engage community stakeholders and public input through open public forums. Number four, to make a preliminary determination as to the potential costs for either reuse or demolition if appropriate. And number five, to review all the possible uses for the buildings and/or land for municipal purposes. And number six, to evaluate all possible uses and make a final report to the select board within 6 months of the referral. This gives them time to perform all these options. If we give them these charges now, given kind of the timelines for both the senior center and the town hall building project, they should have plenty of time to kind of perform all the work that they need to do for us to have recommendations to put in front of the board before we need to actually be moving to those buildings, so that we'll have a nice, open, transparent process for what we're going to do with those buildings, and then plenty of lead time so that they're not sitting vacant if there's some other reuse that would be merited.
Mr. Chairman, I
West.
would like to remind the board that on November 27th at our select board meeting, that we did vote that to create a building repurposing committee, size and participants to be determined at a later date. So personally, and again, nothing to me against the permanent building committee, but I would like to see what we were talking about back in November be the charge for us to create a committee. The permanent building committee, I went into their, into the website, and the last agenda that I found was Tuesday, September 7th, 2021. So they haven't even met, that I know of, as a committee since 2021. And the thing is that every building project that we have, be it the town hall school admin building, has a committee, the town hall has a building committee. When we did the Yentile Farm, we had a committee, the high school had a committee. So I see this being no different. I mean, I would rather have a committee whose specific charge is to look at these soon-to-be vacated buildings and do exactly as, basically the charge is these 6 elements. But I think the private committee should work in concert with the building inspector, the historical commission, obviously town manager and town administration to find if there are suitable town uses for the buildings. But again, we had taken a vote, and again, with respect to the manager, it was prior to him coming on board. So that's my opinion from what we took an action to do.
Mr. Chair,
Ms.
I don't have the notes in front of me, but I know I was opposed to that, to creating a chair, so that did not pass. To my recollection, I could be incorrect.
There's the
I
minutes.
just, it did, it was not, because I have never agreed to start this building committee, because we don't need another committee when we have the permanent building committee. Excuse me, sir.
Let's let the gentlelady speak first.
Thank you. I have always been against this. I don't have the notes in front of me. I have never voted to, if we did vote on that, they'll look at the notes, we've had further discussion on this, and I can tell you that I was against creating another committee. And I believe, Mr. Palmer, correct me if I'm wrong, you had brought that up at one point as well. We have enough trouble getting people on committees. It's a volunteer, it's hard. We have people on the permanent building committee who know about these, and in this charge, it will bring in the public who can offer their opinions, which I think is very important, to give their opinions, what they think is done. The public will have a voice, but I do not think, this is very different from having a high school building new buildings. This is about existing buildings, and these are the people that work within these buildings and can bring the recommendations to us. And I was very glad to hear about a 6-month timeline, because that is what is most important to me, is that this is done in a very timely fashion, and we don't have these empty buildings sitting around, whether they're going to be, whatever it may be, reused, torn down, repurposed, whatever. So I am not for another committee. The Economic Development Committee is falling apart because we can't get people. The finance committee's looking for people. They have one person that applied. I mean, it's difficult. And I also want to just mention, there's some bad communication going around that we were looking to do a committee, because I've been told, people have asked me that they have told me that they'd like to be on it, a couple people. And I was not aware that we were, but this has clarified it. I guess it was just a miscommunication that we are not doing one. So that's all. I am not for another committee when we already have a committee that can bring the public in public forums and listen to them and take that all into consideration. And I know, I will say right now, I will not make a decision on a building until that happens.
Thank you. If Mr. West will come back, I just want to give these gentlemen a chance. Did I see your hand up?
I originally made the recommendation of the reuse committee, and shame on me for not going over and checking first regarding the permanent building committee. That's where it should be. And with the 6 charges that will be brought over with it, would be the exact same thing that we would form another committee on. This committee is already in place. They know the buildings. They will have public comments, and the public comments will also be brought before us when they come to us and say that Building X, we would like to see this done. The public's here, and they can address it too, and they could say, no, we want this done. Now we'd have more of a consensus. But I think a lot of it would be resolved right in the committee. We could move forward. These buildings are going to be coming up in a relatively short time, and I don't see any use with bringing up a reuse committee. Again, like I said, I should have gone into it more in depth, and I will admit that by bringing it to this committee, the Permanent Building Committee, they know the buildings. They know what we have. They know what we're going to need. They're also going to look for input from all departments, including recreation and everyone else, to determine what we're going to use these buildings for, if we need them. We don't want buildings lying around empty. One, they cost us more, being empty. But I strongly recommend that the board accepts this change to the Permanent Building Committee. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Kara?
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Chair. Just in defense of the Permanent Building Committee, to Mr. West's point that they haven't met since, I believe he said September 2021, they have done yeoman's work, and they have met on several occasions regarding the town hall and the senior center. They may not have had a separate meeting unto itself, but these individuals have worked their tails off on the building committees that are existing today, and how much more can you task a volunteer when they're meeting almost weekly on those projects? That's one thing. Secondly, there were 3 or 4 times that this issue was brought forward while Mr. DePalma was chair. And I believe one of the last times was in January. You mentioned in November where we created that, but in January, we all agreed upon waiting until the new town manager come aboard. We voted on that to get his input on it. And we talked at that time, and I believe it was myself that brought up the Permanent Building Committee, that we either charge them with the project, or we take individuals from that committee and put on a reuse committee. So I would be in support of what the town manager is proposing. It seems to me like it's a common sense and logical way to go.
And Mr. West, I would like to come back to you next, but I just want to chime in here from my perspective. You know, I certainly don't want to argue over, you know, what took place a couple months ago. I don't have it in front of me. I'll have to go back and watch the film, so I'm not going to lay claim that I know exactly the verbiage of that evening. But I do recall that there was some mention of, let's find out from the new town manager what his or her recommendation is going to be. I think this is a really good recommendation. I want to remind folks who are not familiar with the Permanent Building Committee that it's made up of residents, most of them longtime residents who have served us very well. Many of them put together the Facilities Master Plan, which is a study of all of our buildings in town. Many of them were critical in the development of the new Wilmington High School, and some of them even involved in the middle school and the fire station that we currently have. So in addition to serving on many committees now, these residents have served us very well. I have the utmost confidence in them. I think this is a positive recommendation, and to your point, Mrs. Maselli, that we have a number of vacancies. I don't claim to know all of them offhand, but if you check our town website, we have a number of volunteer positions that are currently vacant, and we encourage residents to come forward and fill those if they'd like. But it is difficult, and sometimes another committee means another staff member, another strain on WCTV, because we want to make sure we can film as many of our meetings as we possibly can. But they're a small staff too. I try to keep that in mind when we're scheduling things. So I think this is a really good recommendation, but Mr. West, you wanted to add another comment.
Well, just a couple of things. One, these were the minutes from the November 27th, 2023, and it just says, in summary, it says, Chair Bendel called for a vote, and by the affirmation roll call of all, it was voted that the Select Board create a building repurpose committee, size and participants to be determined at a later date. So at this meeting, it was a unanimous vote to create a building committee. To Mr. Kyra's point, when you talked about how much do you want to tax these people, because you're 100% correct. The people on the Permanent Building Committee are on the Town Hall School Admin Building, they are on the Senior Citizen Building, so they are being taxed. I agree with that, 100%. So what I'm saying is that create a separate committee that is based on residents. You can have 5 or 7 residents making an odd number, create an odd committee, that their purpose is to do what we're talking about here, and have them talk to the building, the building department, the town manager, et cetera, et cetera. As far as, the staff and all this that you're talking about in WCTV, they haven't met, the Permanent Building Committee hasn't met since 2021 as a committee. They're in other committees doing their thing, but the last agenda, and the meeting was actually canceled, was September 7th, 2021. That was their last meeting. So if we had an ad hoc reuse committee meeting, it would be the role of this committee that hasn't met in 3 years.
Well-
That's all I'm saying.
Well, thank you for that, but the only thing I would say is that I think that if I'm not on the Permanent Building Committee, obviously, but if I had to guess why they haven't met, they've been pretty busy. We're meeting once or twice a week for the last 4 or 5 years on these projects. Like
And you want to
every
give
single-
them another 6-month job. I say no, give
Well,
it to
we're-
somebody
I
else.
think the recommendation is, the recommendation comes with confirmation from the committee, correct? Correct me if
Yes,
I'm
I
wrong.
spoke to the chair of the committee.
So, I mean, we could go back and forth about this.
Yeah.
And, I don't want to split hairs or pick a fight with you, but number
Well,
one, I
well-
wasn't chair. You mentioned that. I can confirm that I was not chair last year.
Says Greg Bendel
I
called
can-
for a vote.
Maybe you sat in.
Yeah, right.
But we also had many other meetings
So I don't-
discussing it. That might have been the first, but we had concurrent meetings afterward,
I know, well, okay.
Oh, so you weren't at that, so Gary was remote, so you were acting
Acting.
chair.
The acting chair at the time.
But also through the chair, if I can just note, there were other discussions about it after this. We may have been unanimous on that. That might have been the first time it came up or whatever, I
Yeah.
don't recall. But there were other conversations around it after that,
Yeah, I mean,
where I was opposed to it.
I
I'm
can-
just putting that.
I'm sorry, I can also.
It was unanimous at this meeting.
Okay, we'll stay on task here, please. I appreciate your due diligence, because I too wanted to make sure I researched this. So this is January of this year, 2024, where this topic comes up again, and it goes on to describe some of the things we've talked about. Let's see what the new town manager has. There's really no timeline specified, that we're kicking the can, quite frankly, here, because we're awaiting a new town manager and we're not
Agreed.
sure what we're gonna do. And that was as of January of this year, and that is, so, again, we can go back and forth on this, quite frankly. I think this is a positive recommendation. If you oppose it, I recommend you oppose it.
for discussion?
Mr. Chair, are you looking
Sir,
for a
I just
motion?
want to answer the gentleman's question. Sir, out of respect for you, I will note that we do have public comment coming up in just a little bit, okay?
You're gonna
Right.
vote on it now before the public
Well-
comments.
Well, there is
There is
no
no board to
vote.
consider.
There is no vote on this. This is a memorandum, just a discussion, so just to clarify that. Anybody else? Listen, we can bring it up for a further discussion at the next meeting. I'm happy to add it to the agenda. It feels like there maybe needs to be more discussion or a specified vote under a board to consider item where folks can, you know,
Or a public
talk to me.
hearing.
And so I'm open to all suggestions on how we want to proceed.
Mr. Chair, are you looking for a motion on this? Because I'll make a motion that we accept the town manager's recommendation to task the permanent building committee with the evaluation of the buildings for repurposing.
Appreciate the motion. I would just add that I feel like maybe people, feels like this wants to be more discussion on this, so I can appreciate that, and I respect your motion. I will entertain it in just a second because it is on the floor, so I have a duty to do so. But I just want to interject that, you know, if people are uncomfortable and they want to have further discussion, get feedback, and certainly we're going to get that this evening.
I'll
under
second
public
Mr.
comment.
Kyra's motion.
Okay, then the motion's been made and seconded, is laid on the floor.
Discussion.
Discussion.
I would recommend that we put it off till our next meeting, and we hear what the public has to say right now.
Thank you.
I don't see, in my mind, that I'm going to change for the support I have for it, but I do want to hear from the public on it.
Mr.
Further
Chairman,
discussion. Mr. West.
I think the motion is out of order because we don't have a board to consider item to do this, do we?
Well, I believe that would be incorrect. Number 5 indicates that we have communication where votes may be taken. We just took a vote, actually, under
Okay.
white goods in the same section of the agenda.
Mr. Chair, I'll withdraw my motion, if that be, but as Mr. De Palma said, I don't think it will change my,
Well,
my opinion. All that's gonna happen is that it's gonna delay the process
Yeah.
another month to 2 months, so I'll
I
withdraw.
support the
Well-
withdrawal, whatever,
I can appreciate
Board
that because I'm inclined to support your motion, but I think
Okay.
Mr. De Palma raises a good point that we're going to get feedback. By the way,
Okay.
I don't think that the permanent, even if we were to vote in the positive tonight, if we took a vote, which I don't think we're going to now,
right.
the Permanent Building Committee is not getting together in the month of August, as you just outlined in your previous memo. They're pretty busy
Yep.
with the MSBA and other projects. So I feel like
Okay.
good suggestions been made. Let's get some more feedback. Let's let people chime in, and then let's take it up in a possible board to consider in August.
Sounds good.
Is everyone comfortable with that?
And you could possibly ask the chair of the permanent building committee to come in to see if they can do as they're being outlined to do.
That's a good suggestion.
Mr. Chair, I believe also that, I'm sorry.
No,
I believe our town manager has discussed this extensively with them.
I have.
Oh, thank you.
Okay. So for the record, the motion by Mr. Kyra and seconded by Mrs. Maselli has been withdrawn.
correct.
Okay, so we are taking no action on this evening. And so we are, I will add this to our agenda for August, along with the manager. Okay? Okay.
So the next memorandum that's included in your packet is regarding Select Board FY '25 goals and the town manager evaluation. This is more of a preparatory memorandum. I do think that it's important for the board to set goals, both for the board itself and for myself and the administration, to go forward and to set up a kind of a transparent process for how the evaluation's gonna work. I've talked it over with the chair, and he requested that I kind of bring this up for folks to consider and think about. And I'm doing some research, and I'll be coming back at a future meeting with maybe some proposals as to how the process would work, and maybe the format of those things, both the kind of the board's goals for the board as a whole and for my evaluation. So,
Yeah. Thank you very much, and I appreciate you bringing this up. As you mentioned, I did want to have this on here so that people can start thinking about how they want the evaluation to go. I know we've discussed briefly the timeline of when the evaluation may take place. I'd like to work with you collaboratively on that. and what makes sense for all of us and fair for both sides. So if folks could be thinking about this, I don't want to declare the honeymoon over, but you've been on the job for a month, so we're going to set some clear expectations and so that we can be fair to both sides.
Mr. Chair, as far as an evaluation form, should we be thinking about that too, or offering suggestions, or are we just kind of thinking about the process as
I
a
think
whole?
everything's on the table, but as you mentioned, Eric, you were going to bring some proposals forward.
Okay, I
think-
wasn't
and
sure if
I
that
would
included that.
Extend you the
Great.
same courtesy, or anyone here.
Nope,
That if
that's
you
fine.
have suggestions on what that's going to look like.
I just wanted to make
then
sure.
Thank you. Yes,
Yeah,
that's
no,
a good
thank you.
suggestion, and we welcome everybody's input here too, so we can come together to an agreement.
Great.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. The next item is correspondence. This is correspondence from Deborah A. Wagner, Director of Accounts, the Massachusetts Department of Revenue, regarding the Shawshene Tech Excess and Deficiency Certification. So we received this from Jeffrey Snyder, who's the Commissioner of Division of Local Services, and Sean Cronin. The excess and deficiency for Shawshene Valley Technical High School is in the general fund, $3,634,695. The certification is in accordance with the provisions of General Law, Chapter 71, Section 16B and a half, as amended. The unencumbered funds certified above in excess of 5% of the operating budget and budgeted capital costs for the succeeding fiscal year must be applied to reduce the current fiscal year's assessment, in accordance with the joint guidance issued by the Division of Local Services and the Department of Elementary and Secondary Education. For our district, the excess amounts to $1,763,512.80. So that came from Deborah Wagner, the Director of Accounts of the Massachusetts Department of Revenue. There's calculations on the second page of the excess and deficiency. So I wanted to put that in there for folks to see, and obviously, if you had any questions, I'd be glad to take them.
Was this just Wilmington's portion of the Shawshene Tech?
No,
fund,
this
or
is-
This is the whole.
This is the
Shawshene?
entirety of Shawshene Tech's.
Okay, because I remember we took a vote at town meeting that originally they was, prior to town meeting, they were going to have to redistribute that 1.7 back to the town, back to the 5 communities in a proportion. So I think each town voted that they could keep the excess because they're looking at long-range repairs or.
Right, so there was that vote at a town meeting to
Right.
set up the account to fund capital
Capital projects.
projects.
Okay.
So if no other questions. Mr. Chair, the next correspondence is communication from the EPA. This is a letter, a news release from the Environmental Protection Agency regarding the Olin site. Public input is sought for a proposed prospective purchaser agreement to redevelop the Olin Eames Street property in Wilmington, Massachusetts. So it is a two-page press release along with frequently asked questions regarding the Olin site that they also provided. This is coming around because the Olin property has reached the point now where the cleanup has proceeded to the point where it is possible for a prospective purchaser to take ownership of the site. The prospective purchaser agreement would still require Olin to complete the cleanup. And no action of a prospective purchaser would be allowed to interfere in the remediation actions or to contribute to any further remediation or any other contamination on the site. So this is just letting folks know that we've reached that point in the process where Olin is clean enough that someone could buy it.
Mr. Chair, if I may just make a
Please.
comment. I just want to encourage residents to go onto the EPA's website to, if you haven't already, to take a look at this document, and public comments are open until August 1st. So I would just encourage you that if you do, want to add comments to it, it's important to do so. So I would just encourage everybody to take a look at this and take a few minutes, 5-10 minutes to go to the EPA website to look this up and add your comments to it. Thank you.
Thank you.
Mr. Chair, if I could just follow up, that public comment period does go through Thursday, August 1st, 2024.
Thank you. Final correspondence, please.
Yes. The final correspondence is from Verizon. This is regarding a programming change to FiOS TV. So on or after July 31st, 2024, CGTN, channel 277, will be removed from the FiOS TV lineup.
Okay.
So
I'm teasing.
I was about to say, that is a question that I do not know the answer to. CGTN, I don't know what CGTN is, but channel, if you're an avid watcher of channel 277,
All right.
that will be removed from your FiOS TV lineup at the end of this month. So, that's just wanted to let anybody know about that.
All right. Thank you. We have 3 board to consider items here tonight. Agenda item number 6. The board to consider request from Mr. Patrick Giroux, Chairman of the 4th of July Committee, regarding Fall Fest and the tree lighting. You may recall that back in the fall, we already approved both of these events. We're looking forward to it. We also want to congratulate Chairman Giroux is here this evening, and with great thanks to him and his committee. There's also other members of the committee here. What I think was a wonderful 4th of July celebration, enjoyed by many.
Yep.
We really appreciate all your work and think it was a great success. And we are really looking forward to the 2nd annual Fall Fest and the annual tree lighting. Tonight, we wanted to specify the location. Mr. Manager, did I miss anything?
No, that's absolutely correct.
I want to extend a courtesy to Mr. Chairman Giroux is here this evening. I don't know if you wanted to add something. Did I miss something? If you don't mind coming to the mic, thank you.
Hello, Patrick Giroux, Chairman of the 4th of July Committee. Nothing much else to add. You'll recall I was here last fall to request permission for the events. Due to the unknown, schedule at the time for the construction activity of the new Town Hall School Admin Building, it was asked that I come back late summer timeframe so we can formally approve the dates. So here I am. I have had conversations with the town, specifically about the construction schedule. This year, Fall Fest will occur mainly on the town common, in which you probably know part of it will be excavated in the coming weeks for some underground utility lines. I've been told the schedule allows this event to occur in late September, as the common should be restored by the time school starts. So for Fall Fest, the bulk of the programming will occur on the town common, the same design as last year with a vendor market, food trucks, and a lot of family-friendly activities. And we'll also have a touch-a-truck type event as well as some potential ancillary activities in the student parking area. Again, this is all coordinated with very tight logistics, as we do with all of our events. We meet in this very room with every department head that has a touch for all of our events, and we will coordinate logistics to make sure safety and the attendees are able to access the event in a good manner. So again, we have had conversations with the town. They are supportive of the event and its proposed locations. So that's Fall Fest. The tree lighting, we are looking forward to having this in the town common on Saturday, December 5th. So, I'm here tonight to basically receive permission for the event locations. Thank you.
Great. Thank you, Mr. Giroux. And just to confirm, I already know the answer, but just for full disclosure, positive recommendations on the location?
Correct.
Thank you. Questions or comments, or a motion?
I'll make a motion.
to
It's okay, go ahead.
Motion
to accept the where the venue's going, dates, times,
the location.
location.
Yes.
Second for discussion.
Seconded by Mr. West. Discussion, sir.
I just wanted to say, Patrick, and to any of the committee members that are here, number one, 4th of July, even though everything, if we call it 4th of July and everything was in June, everything went fantastic. Weather, thanks for talking to the weather gods to make sure that everything ran accordingly. I know we had some threats and stuff, but fantastic job. I know Fall Fest last year was a huge success. So, and obviously the tree lighting is an annual event, so I think that's you'll have a great, you'll have a great turnout for that. So I just want to, publicly thank anybody that was involved in the 4th of July festivities, from the committee, the vendors, the public, just the carnival, just, and the public safety, and also the DPW. I mean, everybody did a bang-up job, so thank you.
Thank you, Frank.
Absolutely.
Yep.
Any other discussion before we vote? Hearing none, we'll call for the vote. All those in favor? It is unanimous.
Thank you very
We
much.
got the location.
Have a nice evening.
Thank you very much. All right. On to number 7. If you've turned on your TV lately, you know there's an election coming up. So tonight, we're going to be signing the warrant for the state primary election. Mr. Manager.
Yeah, so this is board to consider signing the warrant for the state primary election this Tuesday, the 3rd day of September 2024, from 7 a.m. to 8 p.m. to cast state primary for candidates for political parties for the following offices: Senator in Congress, Representative in Congress for the 6th District, Counselor for the 5th District, Senator in the General Court for the 2nd Essex and Middlesex District, Representative in the General Court for the 19th Middlesex District, Clerk of Courts for Middlesex County, Register of Deeds for Middlesex Northern District. So this would be to approve that warrant in order to have it posted in time to have the primary.
Great. Is there a motion?
I'll make a motion to approve.
Thank you. Is there a second? Seconded by Mr. De Palma. Is there discussion? Hearing none, we'll call for the vote. All those in favor? It is unanimous. Primary will be held on September 3rd. And finally, a board to consider, this is a good one. We get this one quite a bit.
Every year.
A request from Sherry Almeida and the residents of Lucaya Circle to have a neighborhood block party on Saturday, September 14th, 2024, from 12 p.m. to 10 p.m., and a rain date of Sunday, September 15th, from 12 p.m. to 10 p.m. And we have recommendations, positive recommendations, Mr. Manager, where there's no conflicts?
We do not have any conflicts.
Okay.
I'll make a motion to approve.
Thank you. Is there a second?
1 second.
Seconded by Mr. De Palma. Any discussion? Hope it's a nice time. All those in favor? It is unanimous. I hope they enjoy. Okay, which brings us to the next portion, public comments. Would anyone like to be heard? And if you don't mind, just come into the microphone, and if you could, please, just identify yourself by giving your name and address for the record. Thank you.
Yes, my name is Donald Lysko. I live at 16 School Street in Wilmington, Mass, of course. I'm in favor of the repurposing building committee. A permanent building committee does not mitigates the neighborhood, the abutters, where if you have a committee that is formed and you include these people, then the neighborhoods and the abutters have more input. I ask, what are your plans for this building that you won't relinquish control? Very strange. Ms. Masella, you said you had 2 people that were interested in being on the new committee. I put myself forward. That's 3. Anybody else in the room?
No, excuse me, I didn't say they were interested. They were asking about it.
Oh,
They had
okay.
interest in it, but they weren't volunteering. Can I just ask you a question,
Sure.
sir? What building were you referring to there when you just said that we won't relinquish control? I don't.
You put forward that there was going to be a new committee, a repurposing committee, formed.
Right.
Then you took it away and said, no, we're going to do this with the permanent building committee. So you took the control out of our neighborhood.
Oh, I thought you were referencing a specific building in
No.
your comment. Okay.
There are numerous buildings.
No, I know that,
And
but I thought you were, I misunderstood you. I thought you were referencing a specific building in your
So that
comment.
leads into my next question. How many people on the permanent building committee are abutters to the buildings in question that live in
Well,
the neighborhood?
Sure. I don't claim to know everybody's address, nor do I want to give it out on live television. I'll leave that to them. But to answer your question, I think, I can only speak for myself, but I think the reason why I would be inclined to hand it over to the Permanent Building Committee is it will be a very long process of looking at all of the different buildings, that it could be, you know, the Bazell, the one over by the cemetery, which name escapes me at this point, the town hall here that we're sitting in this evening, a number of different buildings that these folks are really familiar with, and have proven that they have great expertise long before I've been involved. And all of them are residents who live in various neighborhoods throughout the town, and I know for a fact are very interested in everybody's input, having served with them in different capacities in my time. Each one of them, you know, fields phone calls and emails and has sat in this room far more time than I have, serving the town well. So I don't doubt that would continue.
Okay, so why don't we just see how much interest there is? Open it up for a new building committee. If you don't get enough people, hey, you can have it. Problem solved. Meanwhile, Mary Lamont has been an abutter for the existing senior center. She's been complaining about the lights ever since she's lived here for 20 years at meetings. And no, everybody just ignores it. So as far as you're being responsive to the citizens, I don't see it. Thank you.
Well, thank you for your comments, sir. Anyone else like to be heard?
Hey, Paul Shalafo, 48 Hopkins Street.
Good evening.
On June 7th of this year, I sent a letter to the then temporary town manager asking that it be put into the correspondence for the select board. It never showed up in the correspondence. It was meant to be public knowledge for public consumption. When it didn't make the June 10th select board meeting, I sent it again to the now town manager and asked the same for the upcoming meeting. Never made it into that one. It was pertinent to the proceedings of the May 28th, 2024 meeting when the Bazell School was being discussed. I won't read the entirety of the letter. The entirety of the letter has only to do with the proceedings of that meeting and what was discussed that night, but I will read one of the numbered points. There were 5 numbered points. This one was number 4, that the select board establishes a building reuse committee based upon their vote to do so at their November 27th, 2023 meeting forthwith, and that the building reuse committee, once formed, be given guidelines regarding the reuse and/or disposition of vacant and unused buildings. Now, this was presented via email. Mr. Chair, you did respond that you did receive this.
Correct.
And it has never made it here. Now, had this been out there at the time, either the meeting of June 10th or the meeting of June 24th or this meeting, the third subsequent meeting to me sending it out, then we might not have had the kind of confusion that we had when the Mr. Town Manager read his memo tonight regarding moving these responsibilities possibly over to the Permanent Building Committee. When I sent something to the board, and when I sent something to the town managers, be it the temporary town manager, be it the current town manager, and it has something to do with the proceedings of a previous meeting, and that's all it had to do with. And if anybody needs to take a look at it, you've all been in receipt of it, so reread it. It's got nothing to do with anything except the proceedings of that meeting on May 28th and how they related to the Bazell School. And the one that I read tonight, which is the only thing I'm going to read of that, it has to do with the business of the town. It doesn't have anything extraneous. There's no anything. It had to do with the proceedings of May 28th. And I would have greatly appreciated if that was included in the select board's communications, as many have been. Tonight, we read many communications. The past meetings, we've read many communications. I don't see why it was not included. It had this specific item in it, and we might have, had it been out there 2, 3, 4 weeks ago, we might have been able to have a little bit better understanding of what's going on with building reuse. This is nothing against the Permanent Building Committee. I know a number of people on the Permanent Building Committee, but as Mr. West has stated, they are busy. They are busy. They are on this committee, they are on that committee, they are on this committee, and they are busy. And previous discussions have been to the point of including residents in the process and to the point of including other town officials in the process not on the Permanent Building Committee. And the agenda for the January 22nd, 2024 meeting was actually a board to consider item of populating the Building Reuse Committee with the Superintendent of Public Works, the Superintendent of Public Buildings, a member of the Historical Commission, a member of the Select Board, and 5 residents. The board chose to take no action on it that night, and I don't have a problem with that. They did their discussion, and they decided they would not vote on it. But I do have a question of the November 27th vote. Does that have to be rescinded in order to vote on doing what Mr. Slagle has suggested through his memo?
Well, first of all, thank you for your comments. I don't know if I have an exact answer for you. I'll double check with the manager, but just to be clear, tonight was the opportunity, as you mentioned, for other town officials not on the committee, as you just mentioned.
Sure.
I.e. Mr. Slagle, who's
Sure.
just joined us a month ago.
Sure.
To now give us his recommendation.
Sure.
He's given that.
And I was in full agreement when I saw that was part of the discussion, that he's coming on in a few months, let's defer to that particular point. But I go back to me sending this out on June 7th, and nobody knows, it's not been publicized. And it was meant for the board. It was meant for the board to discuss these very topics about building reuse. And 3 meetings have gone by where it's, now finally I have to come up and make public comments about it. And I would greatly appreciate, and not just speaking for myself, but speaking for anybody that submits communication to the select board, that it be included in their correspondence, their communications. And that's really all I have to say on that particular topic.
Can I-
But there,
Mr. Sorry, can I
Sure,
just,
sure.
do you mind if I
Sure.
interject?
Yeah,
Thank you.
absolutely.
Yeah, just to make sure. So obviously, as you mentioned, I'm glad you mentioned, I did reply. But, I think I'm glad, obviously, I think we can all agree that Mr. Kyra rescinded his motion tonight, and so that
Sure,
we can
sure.
have a discussion like this.
Sure,
and
but I
we can
still
have the
wanted
opportunity-
to be able to get that out.
Yep.
I was expecting that maybe after hearing Mr. Kyra's motion and a second, that if it did get voted, that I was going to say this has been rendered moot, but I'd like to talk about it anyway.
Yeah, well, I mean, you've
But
been
obviously, it
around.
has not been rendered moot
Yeah.
at this particular time.
You've been to these meetings enough to know that I would have been in a jam, right? A motion and a second puts me in a jam where I have to entertain it.
Absolutely.
But I'm glad that he
Absolutely.
did, and so
I
we can
think
have
that
this further
The procedures
discussion.
of the board are
Yeah.
certainly not in question here tonight. So,
Thank you.
Thank you for hearing me.
Yeah.
Appreciate it.
Thank you for your comments.
Thanks.
Good evening.
Christine Johnston, 15 Thurston Ave. I'm a member of the Historical Commission.
Good evening.
It's fair to say that I'm speaking on behalf of them because we were very excited that we were to be included on the reuse committee. To hear that there may potentially not be one is very disappointing. Some of the buildings in question are of a historical nature, and we are very concerned about what will happen to them. We would like to have a seat at the table. We would like to be involved in those discussions. Mr. De Palma, you had said that the public comments that were going to be made tonight were not going to change your vote. So I can only assume that when it is said, the Permanent Buildings Committee will let the public comment, it's not going to have any effect. I mean, I think it's obvious that decisions will be made. We are just asking to have a seat at the table.
Thank you. And if I could just, if I may reply to that, I would just speak for myself and suggest that it would be my belief that if this was turned over to the Permanent Building Committee, that knowing those folks like I do, they most definitely would get the input from the Historical Commission, if not invite them, and meet with them. If I had to guess, and I'm only guessing, I'm not on the Permanent Building Committee, but those folks, knowing them, would want your input and your committee's input. And that's a guess, but I'm comfortable saying it.
Thank you. I think at this point, that's probably the best we can hope for, so thank you.
Thank you for your comments.
Marlene Tilsley, 4 Powder House Circle.
Good evening.
I am one of the 2 houses that is directly impacted by the new town hall parking lot expansion. As I've stated before, the communication that abutters have received regarding this construction project has been little to none. In fact, we had no idea about this expansion until June 18th, less than a month ago, where my neighbor found out accidentally from a surveyor while she was in her garden. The proposed plan will extend the parking lot towards the residents' homes, exposing them to an increase in pollution, trash, debris, noise, and hazardous materials. The proposed plan will extend the current parking lot into land that has been maintained and cared for by residents, not the town, for over 70 years. Maintenance of such land has included mowing, raking, trimming, picking up trash, beer cans, and drug paraphernalia. Abutting neighbors have helped to maintain the green space in Wilmington, not destroy it. Residents and abutters were encouraged to voice their concerns about the expansion at the Town Hall Building Committee meeting on July 10th. Our voiced concerns were not met with sympathy, compassion, or human regard, but in turn were followed by belittling insults, threats, and disrespect. We have been good neighbors and tax-paying citizens, and by voicing our concerns, we were portrayed as criminals. As residents, we have the right to ask questions and receive answers in a professional and courteous manner. I suppose I could use this time and present the board with the same disrespect in which I received, but I won't do that. I'll do better. I'm here once again asking town officials, and especially newly appointed town manager, Mr. Slagle, to reconsider this part of the new town hall building project. As seen on the site development page, the new layout for the parking lot is well over the required minimum. It wouldn't seem that a handful of extra parking spaces would make a difference in the functionality of the lot, but in turn comes with a great compromise for the quality of life for the abutters. It seems both unnecessary and unjust. We are hoping that the town considers not what they can do, but what is right to do. Thank you.
And thank you. And Mrs. Tilsley, if I could just respond to you. First of all, I'm sorry that this has been upsetting for you. 2 things that I want to note. Number 1, the town, and correct me if I'm wrong, has no intentions of seeking any civil, criminal, or financial implications to any abutters as it relates to this project.
That's correct.
That's correct. And I hope that puts you at a somewhat ease. Number 2, just for those who are listening, I want to make sure that folks are aware tomorrow morning, Tuesday at 9 o'clock, the town manager is going to meet with the residents privately to go over all of the expectations and to hopefully answer any questions and to have a discussion further with you folks. That's correct, Nina?
That's correct.
Okay. And so obviously I know that that's not going to satisfy your concerns this evening, but I just wanted to add that. And I think the most important one is that I think that it should be noted that the town has no intentions of seeking any criminal, civil, or financial as it relates to this project.
Okay.
Mr. Chairman, just a quick question, to Mr. Slagle, is that, are we going to get a summary or whatever of the discussion or whatever that you're doing? Or is there a way to get some sort of a?
I can reach out to the board, as I can communicate with you as I have in the past regarding what happens tomorrow.
And again, we're not just to get an idea of, what's going on with the residents and if we've reached an amicable solution.
I can certainly let the board know.
Thank you.
Ma'am?
Hi, I'm Lisa Ferranti, 2 Powder House Circle.
Good
I'm the
evening.
neighbor who came upon the land surveyor who told me the parking lot fence was going to be pushed in. At that time, it was 8 feet. And it was news to me. Needless to say, I felt very blindsided and very upset, to say the least. So I want to give a face to the name that I've emailed everyone here on the select board. I was with the Tidsleys on July 10th, along with other abutters who are deeply concerned about losing those trees and that brush for a natural buffer. I am pleading as a last-ditch effort to preserve those trees and brush as much as possible, and also requesting the town put up some sort of privacy fence to screen off the lights that come into our backyards, because there's nothing there that exists now. And the way the new design is, every single new additional space is facing this way towards our house. So it'd be like, you're my backyard, it's facing that way. Where all the other spaces are facing perpendicular this way. And the whole, I know we've spoken to the builders. You know, Mr. Slagle was kind enough to meet us impromptu on maybe the first or second day of his christening here at Wilmington. And, you know, we appreciate that we've been given, you know, the cell numbers to the builders. We appreciate all that. But we're just trying to beg for common sense here to try to do the least possible harm for neighbors who are so good to the very many numerous community events that Patrick Giroux, I'm sure, can attest to. You know, everything from trains coming up our street to, you know, crowds for sleighs, trains. We've never, ever complained. We're not complainers on that street. We love the community. So I just want to give a face to the name, and I want to thank you. And I have to say I agree with Mrs. Maselli as far as the committees go, because to get to the people who are in charge, we had to go through numerous departments just to find the right people to talk to. So something's wrong when the select board members are saying, we had no idea the parking lot was going to be going in that direction. So there's some sort of lack of communication somewhere. So I hope that can improve. And I'm not going against Don for the committee you want, Don, because Don's a great guy.
Keep an open mind and don't have
Yes.
their minds made up.
Ma'am,
But thank you for listening.
well, thank you for your comments, and I want to also say the same to you. I'm sorry that this has been upsetting to you, and I hope tomorrow's meeting is a positive one. Sir,
Good evening.
your name and address, sir?
I think you know who I am, so I'll just be anonymous because it's not really about me.
Well, good evening to you.
Good evening. The word permanent, I don't think I need to define what permanent is to everybody, but I just want to say this. If a building is in question, whether it gets raised, gets renovated, it's not permanent. Therefore, if a building is not permanent, if it's in question, a permanent building committee would be inappropriate to be sitting as a committee that decides what building in question should be. And so I agree with Mr. Chalafour that there should be a committee of citizens. It probably should be advertised, and people that actually know some things, that are actually educated in the field of construction, engineering, and asbestos, anything like that, should be invited to come and be part of that committee. The current permanent building committee, I don't see people that are architects, geoscientists, structural engineers. I just don't see that. I see a guy that sells insurance. I see people that play a guitar. I mean, it's. I have kind of some questions about that. Regarding Mrs. Tilsley's comments, I've watched the previous meeting. I think this board should consider taking a look at that meeting, and one of those the board member who threatened criminal charges and civil action and penalties, I would like to see him removed from that board. And I'd like to see this committee take that up as a discussion, because in the past, I've not observed competence from that individual. Regarding the area in question of between the new town hall school administration project in that neighborhood, there's open space, green space. I had been to meetings and I believe it was Valerie Gingrich, our planning director and conservation person at the time, saying that there had to be reports given to, I think it was the state government and the federal government, to obtain grants showing that we had a certain amount of open space and green space areas. And before any trees are cut there or any disturbance of that area, I'd like to find out if that was factored into green space and if that has anything to do with receiving federal funds or possibly putting those funds in jeopardy. So that's about all I have to say on that. I did have a question for Mrs. Maselli, because I thought you were on one of the committees. Are you on
Senior Center.
the senior center?
Yes.
And can you tell us your background in engineering or the construction industry?
I am the select board designee for that committee. I don't need to have that.
You don't
the
need to have
select-
expertise in building or
committees-
engineering?
The committees have a select board representative on each committee. and I
Okay,
am
but
the
is there
designated-
anything in your background that would show that there is some type of profession that you could offer to that project? I'm not asking Mr. Bendel, I'm asking you, Mrs. Maselli.
You're supposed to ask questions
Yeah,
to the chair.
thank you. If you, just as a friendly reminder to everyone, if you could direct your questions through the chair, that would be appropriate.
Okay, can you pretend I just asked that question to you to ask her, and could she answer it?
Well, thank you. This is public comment, not a Q&A, and I'm not gonna,
Okay.
encourage
Okay,
my
obviously she's not gonna answer that
colleagues
question.
to give their resume if they're not comfortable doing
Okay,
that this evening.
no problem. This question is for the manager, Mr. Slagle. By the way, congratulations on getting the job. I watched the previous meeting for the school administration and town hall, and they took a vote to, I forget the exact amount, I thought it was like over $300,000 for a change in flooring. Have you personally looked at the previous contract, the sub-bids that came in for the porcelain flooring? Because that was the original flooring that was in the building before they changed it. If you didn't, that's okay. I'm just asking if you happen to have looked at that.
No.
Okay. The reason why I bring that up is I did not hear 1 ounce of conversation that said, we are going to appropriate some money. However, this is the amount that was bid on with the sub-bids for the porcelain flooring. Therefore, that should be credited toward what the change should be. So just for conversation, if the flooring was bid out for porcelain flooring at, say, $400,000, and they want to change it to slate flooring, I would think that the $400,000 would be credited against what the new price is. So I would ask you, could you get us the answer to that question?
I will definitely look into it.
Okay, and at a previous meeting, I brought up the fact that we have an owner's project manager for that project. And then I found out that Mr. Hooper, who had been sitting on that committee, is now hired as a paid consultant. And I asked you to find out what the contract is with Mr. Hooper, how much we're paying him. Can you tell us, were you able to get that answer for us?
So I can, if you send me a request, I can certainly get that for you. It's public record.
I can't just ask it verbally?
Well, this is public comment, and I think we're...
Okay, all right, because it's my experience, it's my thought that Mr. Hooper was an electrician. And I don't think that he is a geotechnical professional, an architect, an engineer, and therefore I question, why are we hiring him as a consultant when we have an owner's project manager who is our consultant, who are the people that are supposed to be watching out for the town's interest on that project?
Well-
And so
Mr. McDonald, if I could just interrupt you for a second, please. I just want to be mindful that if someone's not in the room to defend themselves, that perhaps we should, we'll leave the name out of it.
He
if
could
you
be
don't
here.
mind.
He had every right to be here.
Right, but he's not, and he didn't know you were going to come ask these questions, right? So
I asked it at the previous
meeting.
meeting, so,
That's great, and I appreciate your comments. This is public comment. I do see we have other people
Okay.
waiting, so,
Yep, and I had some concerns regarding the executive session, which I know you can't speak about, but I had made some suggestions at a previous meeting that when the oil tanks get filled up and there's thousands of gallons of oil being put into the ground, that a representative of the town, whether it's the police or fire, probably more appropriately the fire department, be there when they're filling the tanks. Because right now, I'm reading the potential litigation associated with the cost recovery for the Wildwood School oil tank breach. Some of you may know that I was opposed to the new high school because they were not going to clean up the oil spill. And there was probably like 60,000 gallons of oil that spilled into that ground in close proximity to a wetland that's a tributary to downstream communities' water supplies. And so I just think it's irresponsible to have an oil company show up and then instead of having guys down there watching him with a stick, making sure that that oil comes up and it's not going into the ground, rather than watching TV down at a public safety building, I'm not on board with that.
thank you for your comments.
And so nothing was done about that. That was months and months and months ago that I brought that up. And another thing, maybe you could ask Mr. DePalma if he's done anything with this. We have millions of dollars that are going into pension contributions. We have health care costs that are in the millions. And I asked for a simple board agenda item to have a thorough vetting of that, to have some people come down and explain what the heck's going on. Why are we having to pay millions of dollars into this fund? And you never did anything about it. So are you planning to never have an agenda item on that, Mr. Bendel?
We'll certainly take it under advisement, Mr. McDonald.
You took it under advisement already back then. So what was the outcome of the advisement?
Well, again, I appreciate
Is that just
your-
like a BS way of saying, I'm not going to answer your question? Because that's what your
trying.
comments seems like they are. And I'm pretty much used to seeing politicians use that cute little phrase of, we'll take it under advisement, and never doing anything about it. So the question is, are you going to do something about it or not?
I'm gonna try to answer you. Is that okay? All right, thank you. Yes, so this most certainly will take it under advisement. I would also remind you that, yes, you have. I will acknowledge, you have come here, you have asked that. But I would also remind you that we only have the information in front of us this evening based on what's on the agenda. If you have a sincere question, then you would reach out to us during the day where we can get you the proper answer. I don't want to give you bad information or a guess. We have really phenomenal staff here that if you have a question, they get residents the answer. And if you really wanted the answer, you would ask it instead of just trying to spot me
I've put in
to try to
plenty
get
of
a
public
viral
record
clip.
requests. I know how to do it, okay? I can flood the town hall with public record requests. I know how to do that.
Correct.
Okay? This isn't a question. This is a simple request for a hearing, for an agenda item to get to the bottom of where the hell's all the money going? Who's getting it? Where's it invested? Why are we bailing bad investments out? It would be the responsible thing of this board to say, I'm not going to take it under advisement. I'm going to actually do something about it and actually have an agenda item on that.
Thank you for your comments.
And
I want to be respectful. There's other
lastly, I
residents
just
that are
wanted to
waiting.
have the total amount of the warrants and the Shawshene Tech amount. You got that total dollar amount?
The total dollar amount for this week's warrants, which means that all of our town employees get paid, is $17,321,430.06. And Mr. Manager, if you want to answer the other question, I'll stay away from that.
Let's see. So the general invoices for Shawshene Tech, they're two separate ones. In warrant 2500, Shawshene Tech was $630,237.50. And in warrant 2453 for general invoices for Shawshene Tech was $33.86. I will note, just to remind everybody, that the chair did recuse himself from those votes.
Okay. Well, thank you for that. And is there anything in the warrants that show any expenditure for what's called the broken pipe that was under a floor that the superintendent talked about at town meeting? Have they done anything about trying to fix that? Or was that just like a ploy to get money going into a special account?
That's probably a question better posed to that person.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you for your comments. Ma'am?
Hello, Suzanne Sullivan, 60 Lawrence Street.
evening.
Welcome, Mr. Slagle. I hope we can work in the future together, especially on the Olin site. And that's why I came here today. Tonight I was actually watching from home, and I heard a suggestion that, encouraging residents to comment on the Olin site. And the first thing that came to my mind was, well, what is the board doing? Is the board commenting on the Olin site, or are we just encouraging the residents to do so?
I think that's a good question. I can only speak for myself. I too got the memo. I'm inclined to try to give my input, but I agree with Ms. Maselli. The more input we can get from residents, the better, and this is the only avenue we have, and I would encourage people to join us in giving input.
Well, I concur with that. I certainly will be commenting, and the Wilmington Environmental Restoration Committee will certainly be commenting. And just for Mr. Slagle's purpose, the Wilmington Environmental Restoration Committee is a committee that was formed with Superfund site, for the Superfund site, through a grant from the EPA as a citizens group to act as a liaison between the EPA and the town of Wilmington, the residents, and to try to decipher some of the information coming from the Olin site to the public. We've received so far about $150,000. We have our own consultant, and then we hire our own consultant with that money. I happen to be the vice president of that committee. And just to let you know, I, along with other residents in the town, have been working on the Olin site now for over 30 years, almost 35 years. So I'm here tonight because I want the board, the leader of the community, to develop comments collectively about the Olin site. We worked tooth and nail to stop some of the development that was going to happen there because it was so detrimental to the community. After a site that made our children sick, shut down our water supply, Lord only knows what the impact were to adults because we never had a study. All right, and that's a fact. I'm not talking anything but facts here. So the fact of the matter is that we need to have strong leadership from you. You can't leave it up to us anymore. I've been doing it for 35 years. I want the board of the select board to write comments about protecting the residents of this community from any future use at the Olin site. You can do that, right?
Well, just to answer that specific question, we don't have an agenda item on that tonight that would meet the deadline. But I mean, knowing some of my colleagues, I think that they share your concern for the community, and I would imagine that if they feel inclined, they'll join me in.
Well, I
adding
mean,
comment.
it's better if the board were to do it. Is the board not on the same page with the development of that site, or
I think it's just that the deadline is August 1st, right? And we're not meeting till August 19th. So for us to take action would be difficult, but.
Well, that's
I don't want to
unfortunate.
speak for anybody, but Mr. Slade. Excuse me, sir, the manager.
If I could just speak up just real quick, we are having internal staff meetings, and the town will be submitting comments.
Okay.
With the board, we're internal meetings with the Board of Health, the Engineer's Office, and Planning and Development are going to be meeting with our consultant and with the EPA later on this week, and we anticipate putting together town comments with regards to the
Okay, I think that's really good, and that's wonderful, and it's really good if there's some technical expertise there. I guess what I'm looking for is the board to take leadership position to protect the residents, which might not be through the technical part of the review. To step up and voice their opposition to any detrimental development of that site. That we've been impacted so much from that site, it's only fair to make sure that it's a beneficial use to the community and not more detrimental use to the community. It's not fair, it's not right. That's all we want. We want the board to do that. Now, I don't know if there's any way to get that done, but I would ask this board to do that. I'm doing it. I'm not an elected official. You are. You're elected to protect the town. Why am I doing it? So I guess that's what I'm asking you for.
Yeah, thank you. And I think if people are on the board are inclined to do that, they will. And again, I will encourage the more, one thing maybe I would add is that the more, the better. Not only the 5 people up here, but the other 23,000, if they feel inclined, they should chime in.
Right, and work is going to be reaching out to the community on Facebook and asking people to do things, and it's really hard to get individual people to do it. But I see that it's really your job to do that, and I'm just asking you to please just do your job. Find a way to do that part of your job before August 1st. I don't know. You can do it. You can circulate a letter or something and have the board members, come here and just sign it or something. Like you do a warrant. I don't know.
Okay, appreciate it.
But that's what we're asking you for. Just to be very clear, after all these years of fighting to try to get that site cleaned up, and it's not even close to being cleaned up. Not even close. All right? They don't even have wells on the ground to pump billions of gallons of contaminated water out of the ground. This is just a development to the development of the property. We have so far to go. We have another 35, 50 years down the road. So after 35 years, I'm asking you to take a leadership position and do something. After all that work, all the blood, sweat, and tears that this community's been through to get to this point. So I was really disappointed not to hear on the agenda that there'd be a comment letter coming from the board of the select board.
All right.
So I'm going to ask you to try to please do something before August 1st, in any way you can.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Sir.
Good evening, Jerry Cronin, 180 Middlesex, Wilmington. I
Good
am on the
evening.
board of directors of Wilmington Community Television. I know that we had the building reuse discussion a little bit earlier. I came to be part of that discussion. Just for the record, we want to make sure that going forward, that Wilmington Community Television is part of the exploration process for reused buildings, possibly with an eye toward the old senior center to make us a little bit more central to the high school, to the town hall, to the library, and more central for residents. So I know that this is going to be a continuing discussion, but we just wanted to get on the record that we would very much like to be part of that process of exploring who would be a great match for those buildings.
All right.
Thank you.
Appreciate the feedback. Thank you. Good evening.
Candace Jenkins, 8 Drury Lane.
Good evening.
I know it's public comment, so I just wanted to put it out there that the reuse committee that was mentioned, I have some concerns. It lived directly behind the current senior center. I don't really have that much faith in said board that you guys might be putting together or that already exists. As you mentioned, some of those folks are on the town hall school admin building. And over the last couple of years, for the residents on Powder House to merely find out, within the last 2 months, and be blindsided that, surveyors coming out and saying land, isn't theirs, and, the communication that's lacking around this. My concern is that with the senior center, the existing senior center, if a similar committee made up of similar folks are making decisions, it seems like there wasn't a lot of public knowledge of things going on. And again, the lack of communication for the abutters, myself included, for the town hall admin building. I have concerns because the last thing that I want is, the same group of people who I know you say have, extensive experience working with those. But I think that there's a lack of respect and communication that was shown towards the neighbors, specifically on Powder House, especially, you know, how long this project has been talked about and been going on. So just thinking forward, I have concerns myself about my own property and what will happen with the senior center. So I'd just like that to be known, and I think that, you know, it is worth discussing how that committee is made up. And I would also ask, if it does move forward, that the permanent building committee are the ones that take over the charges, the 6 charges that were mentioned. I would ask, what are the means of communication? Where is it posted? I know there was mention that they haven't had, you know, there were no meeting minutes since 2021. Would they be meeting in a public forum like this where residents could come for public comment? Because my concern is it doesn't seem like the public's comments have been taken under well advisement in the past. So that's my thoughts.
I appreciate your feedback. I just do want to reiterate, maybe just try to answer some of the low-hanging fruit there.
Yeah.
Yes, that the Permanent Building Committee, I believe, meets in this very room, correct me if I'm wrong, somebody, but, and when they meet, it's always in public, always posted. And again, I can't, I don't want to defend them because I don't feel they're being attacked, but I do want to reiterate the fact that a lot of these folks, some of them live in that neighborhood, your very neighborhood, have served the town for a very long time and served it well. I mean, I've only been here 40 years. Some of them have been serving the town for that amount of time. And so I'm really grateful for their volunteerism and their expertise. So I do want to add that again.
Yeah, and agree. I mean, I'll be honest with you, I can side with the fact that everybody's busy, and there's a reason why, you know, volunteers are tough to find. I mean, it's tough enough for all of us that are full-time working residents to do our research and find out when these meetings are. I mean, to be honest with you, the only reason that we've been able to really come together and understand, you know, all the things that are happening is because we're all in communication with each other. It's not really anything of like looking at when things are posted. I don't know. It just feels like there's a little bit more that could be done to communicate things with the town in a way that is meaningful for us to be, you know,
good
letting out
feedback.
about stuff. Whether it be
Appreciate it.
digitally, I mean, emails, you know, mail that goes out, anything like that. So.
Thank you for your comments. Ma'am,
Mary Lamont, 17 School Street.
good evening.
Hello, thank you for this opportunity. I'm here in support of the people on Powder House and several other issues. I wrote it down just so I don't forget anything.
Take your time.
It's been established that the land which has been their backyards, one of which has been that way for 60 years for the previous owner and 12 years for the current owner, for a total of 72 years, and a second resident for at least 31 years, of which time the land has been cared for by these people, have no say legally or otherwise as to what will become of their backyards. But I do believe that you do have a say in the situation and can possibly find another solution other than taking this property for parking spaces. Just a suggestion, St. Thomas's has just redone their parking lot. They have 30 spaces on the outside perimeter on the side of the church, and I believe 30 or more spaces along the back, which could possibly be a solution. The students would just walk down the sidewalk and cross over the common with the other students. When the residents on School Street, Lumac, and Drury voiced concerns regarding noise, vibration, and dust, we were told multiple times that there is no ordinance in Wilmington for monitoring these conditions. I suggest that an ordinance be put in place sooner rather than later, as there has been and will continue to be large construction sites throughout the town. Also, the 4th of July Carnival was always held at the high school parking lot until the new high school was built. This year, because of the new construction, it was once again held at the high school parking lot. I am requesting that you take another look at relocating the carnival back to the high school parking lot, and I will say I'm 200% in favor of the carnival and the 4th of July situation. And lastly, in the meeting prior to groundbreaking, we were told that the committee to decide what to do with the current senior center will be organized. There are several residents in the neighborhood who would very much like to be on that committee. The other thing I would like to ask is, whoever is on the committee, especially only because I live right beside the senior center, I would like them to take into consideration not only the condition of the building and the construction and but the neighborhood. On School Street and on Drury, almost every house has small children, either elementary school age or younger. We have a Knights of Columbus at the end of the street. It's just, I would like consideration taken to it used to be a quiet little neighborhood, and obviously, you know, it's completely changed. I appreciate your time. Thank you very much.
Thank you, and thank you for your comments. If I could just offer a couple of things, ma'am, in response to your comments, just a couple of things. A friendly reminder that tomorrow, the town manager and other officials very honed in on the project itself, which I am not one of, are meeting with the residents privately to hopefully answer their questions and to be, you know, very transparent about questions they might have and specifics as it relates to their property. So that's happening tomorrow. You mentioned the noise ordinance, which I just wanted to note, I think has come up a number of times in our town's history. Most recently, maybe, I'm just guessing, 2020, 2019, somewhere in there, we had a vote at town meeting, which got voted down again. It's been voted down a number of times, and I think, just my guess is that we had people who work third shift who have come up and said, you know, that's not gonna help me if I'm sleeping during the day, or, you know, whether it's a nurse or a firefighter or somebody who's sleeping during the day who may require rest at a different time from folks. That was one of the reasons. Another reason was we certainly can't stop the train from coming through, which we know runs through crisscrosses this entire community. So there was a number of good arguments for both sides of that, but it was defeated, I think, the last 2 times it came up at town meeting. So that's the reason why. It's not up to this board to decide a noise ordinance. It's up to town meeting, which was defeated. So I just wanted to offer that, not as a,
But it could
just
be
as a point of
presented
reference.
again.
It most certainly,
Again, or not?
most certainly, again, it would be a town meeting vote, you know. it's
Well,
not-
thank you, but I'd
Yes, thank
also like to say, I live right beside the senior center.
Yep.
And I asked some of my neighbors because my daughters were out in the yard, they had to come in with the banging. It's from 7 to 3 every day, bang, bang, bang. And both my daughters got migraine headaches. They came in the house, and I don't know if it's where we're situated, because we're right in line with the construction, but inside our house, it's like they're breaking the boulders up inside our house. It's not just outside. So it's just, something's got to be done. I mean, there's construction all over Wilmington, huge buildings, and it's not going to stop. And it's not appropriate. It's, like I said, there's small children, people are getting sick, and it's not just complaining about the noise, you know? So I hope somebody does something.
And I just want to say, I really appreciate your comments. I know that nothing that I say here is going to be satisfactory, but I do, you know, I'm sorry that this has been upsetting for you.
Thank you.
Anyone
Mr.
else like to be
Chair,
heard?
if you would indulge me for just a briefest moment to speak again?
I'll allow it, sure.
Okay, thank you. Paul Shelliff, 48 Hopkins Street. I would just like to ask through you if the town manager could post his memo so the details of these charges are publicly available.
Sure.
Leading up to the next meeting. And also, just a quick question, does the town have a code of conduct, written code of conduct for elected and appointed officials?
So 2 questions there. First one, the answer is yes.
Yes.
We traditionally post all of our community.
Elected?
No, I'm sorry, I'm
Oh.
going back to your first question.
Oh.
Posting the communication.
Yes, okay.
Yes, the answer is yes, we will
Okay.
post that. We do post that, usually it gets posted the
I
day
didn't,
it's.
I didn't see it, I may
Yeah.
I may have missed it. I
So-
didn't see it on the agenda. If it is there, then
Yep,
you
so-
can disregard.
No, we try to post our stuff as
Sure,
reasonably
yeah.
as we can.
I know you do.
Common
and-
practice,
yeah,
it
yeah.
goes to the board members
Sure,
first,
sure.
and then it gets posted on our website. So I
Sure.
would imagine this week,
Okay.
all these communications, including that one you're requesting, will be posted on our website.
Okay.
Second one is, not to my knowledge.
Okay. Maybe through you, the town manager can speak to this. I'm not looking for really an answer tonight, but I know the MMA and the MIIA are advocates of having a written code of conduct for both elected and appointed officials. And that might be something, considering the proceedings of the Town Hall School Administration Building meeting the other night and what took place there, that the town does have that type of code of conduct for both its elected and appointed officials. Thank you.
Suggestion's been noted. Thank you.
Thank you.
Anyone else like to be heard?
Yes, I just have a question through you, Mr. Chairman, for Mr. Kyra. Since you're on the Town Hall School Administration Building Committee, can you commit to the town that any future meetings will be actually in person rather than virtual, since we're, way past COVID?
Well,
And
I'm just going to answer for him. He doesn't have to answer that if he doesn't want to. But I would say that I think overall, in general, the town tries to hold the meetings in person. If not, sometimes we, believe it or not, Mr. McDonald, we get a lot of feedback. They would prefer they be online from folks. So it's a tough balance for us. We traditionally always meet in person, but some of our subcommittees, such as the building committees, the MSBA, which I serve on, where it's a larger group, sometimes it is the committee's desire and the feedback we get from folks that it be online, that's easier. So it's a delicate balance. We get requests for both. So
I understand what you're saying. I
they're
actually
always posted in advance so folks know.
I actually think that the committee could meet in person and it could be online at the same time. So
I appreciate that feedback.
what I wanted to try to drill down on tonight, Mr. Kyra, through you, Mr. Chairman, is the fact that the sewer line for the new project is going across the common, and it's going to have crushed stone covering the sewer pipes. The locker room of the high school is very, very close to the water table, to the and they actually have pumps down there. And so when I re-looked at the high school plans, it showed the engineer showing that the groundwater flow is flowing from the town hall site toward the high school. And so my question is this, can you bring up to the engineers, since you're on that committee, the question as to what happens if there's additional groundwater flow flowing to where the sewer line's going, which is in front of the gazebo and down that exit driveway of the high school, and if that's going to impact getting water in the basement there, and if some type of mitigation should be done to avoid that. The other question I had is, I don't know if you know the answer to this, but the drainage that's going to be coming from the entire parking lot, can you tell us where that drainage pipe is actually draining to?
So, Mr. McDonald, I don't want to interrupt you, but I do want to give you a friendly reminder that we may not have the specifics to those answers because we're just being spotted with them now. You can appreciate your feedback.
But he's on the
certainly.
committee.
That's correct, but in fairness to him, we didn't know you were going to ask that question. A lot of these folks who are here asking questions did reach out to us and gave us heads up, and so I appreciate that as well. If you had a sincere question.
This is very,
then you
very,
would let
very
us know,
sincere, since I asked it at a
and
previous
so-
meeting that Mr. Kyra was at. And
I
I just
know you-
wanted to, if you wouldn't interrupt me, I'd appreciate that,
Where-
because Mr. Kyra was at a previous meeting when I asked it, so there's been plenty of time for him to get the answer, to get up to speed on it. And so I'm just simply asking Mr. Kyra, do you know that? Are you willing to answer that?
Mr. Bennett, yeah, that last question is the first time that you've asked it.
No.
The first question about the sewer lines, you've asked a number of times. You've come to the town hall and school administration building and asked that question. The OPM answered you on that question.
No.
I've invited you to those meetings to ask the question, and the engineers that are there that would have that answer for you. The last one was an in-person meeting. The sewer line, as I am to understand, and I'm not an engineer, they say it's a gravity-based sewer line. So
Yeah.
that answers your first question.
I'm actually up to
As
speed
for
on
the
that because I looked at the plans
Well,
for
then
the
why
sewer
don't you
line.
ask it again, with all due respect? But the
Because-
second question, I don't know the answer to it as to where it's going to drain to, but we can certainly find that out for you.
The reason for my question is I've been told that there are people on each side of the project on School Street and on Powder House Circle that are getting water in their basements. We were told that the Swain School got water in its basement. My concern is that the things that leak out of cars, the things that animals do on parking lots, go into our water table if it's not filtered out. And so it seems to me that the bottom of that stormwater management system should be elevated above the water table, just like a septic system. And so when I looked at the site, I had a huge question because I saw the stone there and it didn't appear to be elevated above the grade, which it would have needed to be elevated based on the water elevation where the Swain School got the water.
So,
The
Mr.
historical
McDonald?
high water table. So,
Mr.
has
McDonald,
it-
may I interrupt you? I just want to double check. I want to be fair to everyone who's here, who may not come to every single meeting and might want to ask a question. I want to be mindful that there are others that might be waiting to ask a question that are not here at every meeting for the last 30 years, so they may have a question.
I don't see anyone standing in line.
Well, there's someone at the microphone, so they may be, I just want to put it out there in case anyone's waiting. Okay, I want to be fair to everyone here. That's my, kind of my charge, is to make sure that I'm fair to everyone,
All
gets a
right,
chance
so-
to be heard.
Thanks for being fair. So I'd like to finish my comments regarding trying to protect the neighbors, protect our water table, protect downstream communities from getting a water table that's polluted. So maybe the best one to ask this question to is Mr. Slagle, because I actually think you're probably the smartest one here. And you are probably the guy
Mr.
that
McDonald,
can...
I think there's some pretty smart people in front of me this evening, so I would disagree with that comment, and also
Okay, we'll agree to
either side of
disagree.
me.
We'll agree to disagree. So, Mr. Slagle, would you be willing to drill down on this question a little more with our professionals to make sure that, say, our Board of Health Director can bring you some type of profile showing where the deep water holes were dug and the historical groundwater table was established, and take a closer look at the distance of that to the bottom of the stormwater management system to see that there's enough sand filtering out any contaminants like oil, animal defecation, methanol from any kind of fluids that could leak out of a vehicle or anything else that could spill. Could you do that?
I mean, I could certainly check with the experts and make sure that the infiltration systems that's being installed there was appropriately engineered.
All right.
Okay, so basically, you guys are not going to be meeting again until after the 1st of August, which was a deadline. Would you ever consider calling a meeting before that so that you could address some concerns, Mr. Bendel?
We've done that in the past, and based on my conversations with the manager, we would act appropriately.
Yes.
So,
Okay. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, sir. Okay, anybody else like to be heard? Okay, we're going to move on to the next agenda item, which is announcements. Any announcements this evening? Hearing none? Move to new business. Is there any new business this evening? Mr. Slagle?
Yes, Mr. Chair, we do have a piece of new business that came in today. A request to the Select Board from the Wilmington Tewksbury Chamber of Commerce. It did come in today. We did not have the opportunity to have it on the agenda as posted. It does request action for an approval from the board for an event that will happen before the board's next meeting. So I do believe it meets the requirements as an emergency to be in front of the board. I believe all the members of the board have this correspondence. The Wilmington Tewksbury Chamber of Commerce would like to host an open house for all Wilmington business owners at the Town Common. That would be on Monday, August 19th, 2024, at 1:00 p.m. They plan to have a table for information. They have to have members there to discuss their experience with the chamber and promote their businesses. They did intend to have local food trucks. There's a discussion I've had with the board, member of the board of directors regarding the location of those food trucks, and if they can't be on the common, they're going to reach out to the school to see if there's availability for the school, the food trucks at the high school parking lot. There'll be a Town of Wilmington table and an SBA table with information. So they were looking for an approval to host that event at the Town Common at 1 PM on Monday, August 19th.
Great. So again, once again, I want to reiterate that this was received within the 48 hours of advance. It was not anticipated, so that's why we're taking this up, and also they've been a great partner for the community. Therefore, we're going to entertain it this evening unless there's any objection. Hearing none, is there a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Motion's been made and seconded. Is there discussion?
Yes.
Mr. Carr.
Just a quick question regarding the food trucks. You'd mentioned that there were no food trucks on the town common.
Yeah, I instructed the individual that because of the parking lot is still gonna, at the Swain Green, it's still gonna be under construction at that time, that if they wanted to have food trucks, they need to get permission from the school to have them on the school, at the high school.
And so I'm assuming that they're gonna have some sort of private detail or someone from the chamber with a bright orange covering to escort people across that busy street, right? If there are food trucks on one side and the events are on the other side.
Yeah, they're definitely gonna have to take steps to make sure that they're appropriately looking out for safety at that at that crossing.
And then that brings up a point about food trucks on the common. I went by on Wednesday, the concert on the common, and there was a, what do you call it, ice cream truck parked on the common. So should he not be there, and should he be told that we gave him permission to sell ice cream, but I don't know if he got permission from town administration to park on the common, and if we didn't do that, maybe he should be politely reminded that there's no vehicles on the common.
And I'd like to add, they have a Kona truck at the farmer's market every Sunday that's parked on the lawn to the common as well.
Yeah,
Yeah, so I know that there was, so for instance, at the Fun on the 4th, there was a trailer of donuts that were way too close to the table that I was at.
Yeah.
Parked on the common. I think it would be helpful to have some direction as to, as
Yeah,
to
just-
how we feel about, is it motorized vehicles? Is it all food trucks, including trailers?
Good point. I know that in years past, the band parents used to sell popcorn and all sorts of things as a fundraiser. So I'm assuming that they're not, I could be assuming wrong, that they're not doing that anymore, and that's why the ice cream truck is there.
Yeah.
And it's okay if he's in a spot where his wheels aren't digging into the ground. I'm sure he was very careful in pulling in and the whole bit, but you're right. I mean, we need to have an understanding what goes on that common. We don't want the common ruined.
Yeah, so
Go ahead. I was just going to say, I am by no means calling out what the truck at the farmer's market, but it's more about consistency. I think it's true, as long as it's not, ruining the common grass, I don't have, an issue. And that's parked appropriately, I don't have an issue with it as well.
And I know he was like on the side.
Yes.
I don't know where the truck was with whether he was in the middle
Yeah,
or
he's
on
like
the
towards
side.
the back. I don't think, where all the tents are set up, he's like just outside of that perimeter. And that's where he is every week. So.
Yeah.
And that may be a result of the construction going on, which is temporary.
It could be, yeah.
I don't know.
Oh,
It's
I'd
just a
imagine-
matter of, again, it's not to
It'd be
call anything out
temporary.
or just to figure it out.
Yeah, because I believe he was on the other side when there was a
Yeah.
parking facility. I
Right.
believe that the ice cream truck I used to see him on the other side.
This may be a
near the 4th of
temporary
July
problem.
Might be a
Yeah,
temporary thing,
yeah.
right?
But I
That's
can
fine,
I can
but-
reach out to the Board of Health, who keeps an eye on food trucks, and talks to folks about, I could talk to the public buildings and DPW, who take care of that common, and see what their thoughts are. And if I think the history has been, when the Swain lot is open, that's where people are parking.
Yeah, I think you're right.
So that is a 6-week problem as opposed to a permanent problem. So.
And I'm sorry, Missy, and that's a good point to get DPW's input on it, because are they causing, tire marks
Someone
into the
concerned,
ground
right.
and causing divots, and ruts and everything else, and it's true, it's probably just temporary, and, should they have come to us to say, can we go on the common, or should we have been proactive maybe in saying, for those people, you need to come and get permission to get on the common, but with with the understanding DPW is okay. And here's where, they may even say where they have to go in order for, the tires to be okay on the
Yeah,
common.
and maybe maybe the DPW has that feedback where they
Yeah.
can say, as long as they're parked over here, we're fine with it, and we can just let people
Right, right.
know when they're on there that this is an okay location, but I can
Good
certainly
check with
come
them,
back.
that'd be great.
Yeah, I can come back.
Thank you. Thank you.
Just a quick question on this.
West.
Where are they parking? Do they have permission from the high school to park, or I'm just kind of curious where they want to, because they're having the event on the common, and I don't envision a ton of traffic, but if somebody wants to go to this, would they be parking at the high school? Do they have permission?
That's an excellent question.
Yeah.
I mean, so typically speaking, when there are events on the common, we haven't in the past looked at parking issues because there's a lot right next door. This is obviously one that's falling in the window
Exactly.
when that lot is not available. And so there's the lot up at the senior center. So I could suggest that, make sure that people are parking at the senior center lot. Although that is still in operation right now,
Right.
so.
I'm sorry, I've got a request for, I know we have a motion on the table, we have a motion for a 5-minute recess. Is any objection to that 5-minute recess? I'll call for a 5-minute recess at 9:15, we'll be right back.
Okay.
Thank you. Unanimous, okay, we'll be right back, thank you. Call the meeting to order again here at 9:18. Thank you for that. Before we left, we had a motion and a second on the table, and we were having discussion as it relates to this request for the Chamber of Commerce. So, might I suggest that we take a vote, and if you're willing to amend your motion, that we vote for this, subject to your conversation to confirm some of the concerns we've had? Like, are they gonna make sure that
Parking
it's
at
safe?
DPW,
It's safe,
and
yeah.
safety crossings.
Safety crossing was mentioned,
Parking.
DPW where they're gonna park, and there was a third?
How many food, you wanted to, how many
Where the
food
food trucks
were they
are,
gonna
and
park?
DPW, and where they're gonna park.
Yeah, I think the goal here, we wanna work with our partners at the chamber.
Yeah.
This is a reasonable request, we just wanna make sure we're crossing our Ts, dotting our Is.
Absolutely.
So, Mr. Manager, you're willing to.
Have my charge.
You have your charge, then it was okay if that motion includes that?
Yes. Who made the original motion?
Kevin,
You did. I think I seconded.
I second it.
Oh, you seconded,
May
sorry.
have been, do we have that?
Who made the motion, Bev?
Okay.
Okay, you
So-
made the motion.
Okay.
We're trying to blame Kevin
I
for
was
everything.
getting nervous. I'm like, did I make it? It's
Short-term
fi-
memory?
It's late, it's late. It's okay.
Let's stay away
Are you okay with that, I guess?
Yeah. we're
Yeah,
good.
I'll amend my motion to include what we discussed.
Okay, thank you, and it's also been
Second.
seconded. Okay, is there any further discussion? Just to be clear on what we're voting on, we're gonna give approval for this event to the Chamber of Commerce, subject to discussions and some questions that our manager will pose to them.
Will do.
Okay.
Yes.
All those in favor? It is unanimous, thank you. Okay. Is there any other new business this evening? All right, hearing none, we'll move into the all-important dates.
Mr. Chair.
Sir,
Board days through October 6th. The aforementioned farmers market is happening on the town common on Sundays from 10 a.m. to 1 p.m. On July 17th, we have a concert on the common at 6:30 p.m., the Rico Bar Band. On July 24th, we have a concert on the common at 6:30 p.m., Southern Rail. And July 31st, we have a concert on the common at 6:30 p.m., Joe Leary. August 6th, I hope everyone comes out to this National Night Out at Rotary Park. It's a really fun time. It's a really important with our public safety folks. August 7th is Purple Heart Day. Additionally, as I mentioned it earlier in the meeting, on August 7th, at 7 p.m., we have a public forum on the Wildwood School Building Project, which is virtual. Please check with the Wilmington School website, or sorry, the Wilmington School website for the link to that virtual forum. August 8th, there's the Library Summer Bash on the Swain Green at 5:30 p.m. On August 14th, there's brush drop-off at Old Main Street from 8 a.m. to 2 p.m. Then on August 17th, there's brush drop-off at Old Main Street from 9 a.m. to 4 p.m. August 19th, as we mentioned before, is the next Select Board meeting here in Town Hall, Room 9 at 7 p.m. August 24th is the last day to register to vote in the state primary. The town clerk's office will be open from 9 a.m. to 5 p.m. on August 24th. Also on August 24th, we will begin early voting in the Town Hall Auditorium from 9 a.m. to 5 p.m. That early voting will also continue from August 26th through August 30th in the Town Hall Auditorium from 8:30 a.m. to 4:30 p.m. That's early voting for the state primary election. September 2nd is Labor Day. Town offices will be closed. September 3rd is the state primary election. Polls open at 7 o'clock a.m. They go to 8 o'clock p.m. And September 9th, we have the next Select Board meeting, Town Hall, Room 9 at 7 o'clock p.m. Those are the important dates, Mr. Chair.
thank you very much. And
Mr. Chair?
Sir,
Could I just mention something on important dates? August 8th, the Library Summer Bash is Swain Green, which is closed off. I'm assuming it's the town common. And
Yes.
could we find out if they are, everybody seems to be using food trucks lately, to find out if they're using food trucks as well, if they're going to go on the town common,
Yes.
as to where to locate them.
good catch. Thank you. Okay, lastly, we have our salute to service, and as was noted, this is our only meeting in the month of July, but we're not going to skip a beat, and we're still going to have 2 salute to services tonight, so thank you to our staff for that suggestion. First up is Mr. Russell Edwards, Private First Class Russell Edwards of the United States Army, served with the 36th Infantry Division from September of 1943 to December of 1945, where he served in Rome, southern France, Rhineland, and Central Europe. Russell's awards include the Good Conduct Medal, World War II Victory Medal, European, African, Middle Eastern Theater Campaign Ribbon with a Bronze Service Arrowhead, the Distinguished Unit Badge, Purple Heart, Bronze Star, and Combat Infantry Badge. Russell married Lorraine Wayland and had 2 sons, David and Stephen, and a daughter, Pamela. David and his wife, Linda of Hudson, live in Wilmington since 1978. They have a son, Michael, and a daughter, Andrea, who works in the treasurer's office here in town. So we salute Mr. Edwards this evening and thank him for his service, number 1. Number 2 is Mr. Private First Class Roy G. Hudson of the United States Army, served with the 54th Medical Battalion in the 406th Collecting Company from March of 1942 until October of 1945. Roy's awards include the Good Conduct Medal and the European African Middle Eastern Theater Campaign Ribbon. Roy married Alice LeGros and had 2 daughters, Linda and Maureen. Linda would later marry David Edwards. David is the family historian, recently brought this impressive collection to share with the Veterans Office, which we thank him for. And we also salute Roy Hudson and thank them both for their service.
Chair, I'd like to make a motion to adjourn.
Accepted. Is there a second?
I'll second that.
Motion's been made and second. All those in favor? It is unanimous. Good night, everyone.
Night, everybody.
Thank you.